Here we go. Okay, so a bunch of sales data as well and some theories of mine. We are looking at right now, getting right into it, a first edition base set. Oh, a little close there. A first edition base set Hitmonchan, and that it had some light scratching on the hollow. It had some edge wear on the back with some whitening, and it was looking like I would have given it. It was a raw copy, but I would have given it maybe like a PSA 5 or 6. That sold for $119. Second bid was 117. Third bid was 85. So the actual price, well, again, it sold for 119. So that's what it is. But the if another one goes up on sale, it might sell for like 95, 100. Again, it's very difficult to replicate because there was a raw copy. Now we have this one's a weird one. It didn't sell, but it was base set, all first edition, all PSA 10, number 17 through 102, all the commons and uncommons. And actually had a few rares as well, or all the rares except just no hollows. Complete set minus the hollows. It was going listed at $18,000 and didn't sell. It was relisted for $16,000, so dropped to. And honestly, I think that is a good price because it's something where $18 it would have sold for like it would have been, I think, like $18 a card, something like that. Or no, I'm sorry, $182 a card. The 16K, I think, or maybe the 100. Either way, you're looking at something that's a really great price. You're getting everything in bulk at once. You don't have to go hunting. Saves you a lot of time. And then right now, there's an Alakazam first edition PSA 10. I think that's for PWCC. That's on sale right now. So if you were to buy that in conjunction with buying, that, then you have, yes, 15 cards left to go after that. That's something that I had the money, I definitely would have bought. Or I'd buy it now at the 16K. And then next we have a Champions Festival, that Worlds card, 2016, was top 32. It was a PSA 8, so it sold for $149 or best offer. So if you can get that card for $100, that's great. 2016 tends to have a little bit of a premium because that artwork in there has the starters, the original starters, and obviously Pikachu and then Psyduck's in there as well. And so whoever, even if you got it 120, it's PSA 8, so it's not a 9 or 10s or for these cards, because there's always in the whole pop report, no matter the grade, always less than 30 copies. Usually, the and for that it's again PSA 8, PSA 10, not too much of a difference. I think they should be more. I probably should have bought that as well. I always keep saying, oh, I should have bought this. Learn from my mistakes, guys. We also had a BGS 9 first edition base set Charizard, 6.5 grand or best offer. Now the PSA 9 had sold a few weeks ago for 7.2 or 7.3, and before then a 6.5 sold. So you see the PSA 9 is climbing. The BGS, I'm not 100% sure because there's not a lot of sales data for that particular card. It was first edition PSA or BGS 9. Now, generally speaking, with BGS, if 9s, as long as the subgrades aren't below a 9, anything 9 and above is usually pretty good. It's usually pretty comparable with PSA. You usually have those disparities or differences and discrepancies when you get below the 9. An 8 could be an 8 or it could be like a 6. Generally speaking, I think SM Pratt did a video on this as well, PSA versus BGS. PSA is accurate pretty much all the way through, minus dense. I think they're very harsh on dense. And then BGS tends to be accurate from 9 and above. Below that, they get a little fugazi. But having said that, each of these subgrades, they had the centering and the corners, those were 9s. So those were the worst part of the cards. And then you had the edges and surface, which got a 9.5 each. So this card most likely would have crossed over to a PSA 9. And I think it, because of those subgrades where not any single one of them is below an 8, I think it probably should have sold for more. I think it's worth more than what this guy got it for. Whatever he did, whether he paid the full 6.5 or if he got a deal, 6.2 or even 5.9, I think he got a deal. And generally, if you want to cross over a BGS, not BGS 9, PSA 9, generally the same. A BGS 9.5, for the most part, will be better than a 9, unless that PSA 9 is a super strong 9. Like, it should be a 10, but it's just not. The PSA 10s are obviously most of the time going to be better than a BGS 9.5. A BGS 9.5 can cross over to a 10. Generally, if every single subgrade is a 9.5 or higher, that's when you'll see a crossover to a 10. And then a BGS 10, generally speaking, that trumps all. Typically, you're going to have a BGS 10 you're not going to want to cross that over because that'll carry a premium to it. Aside from that, just going based on this card, that first edition BGS 9, it was off-center. And that, in my opinion, probably should have given it a 9 by itself. It wasn't terribly off-center. Like, it's not a miscut. It might have gotten an OC grade if you were to ask them to do that. And then also I saw some, it wasn't whitening, there wasn't really scratching, there was these spots on the back of the card where I don't know if it was on the card or on the case. That's the only thing I saw that if that was on the card, maybe it would get like an 8.5. The rest of the card was, again, aside from the off-centering, was pretty flawless. It was a very good card. Little bit of edge wear, like a tiny bit, but the edge wear, that's the one that got the 9.5. Like the corners, I didn't see really anything wrong with them. I don't know why that got a 9, and the edges, which I saw should have been a 9, that got a 9.5, but again, I'm not a professional grader. Everything, notes. Okay, so that was, I have written a lot of notes on that. I'm not 100% sure why, or I could just recall a lot of these from memory. Moving on, we have a first edition PSA 10 Brock's Dugtrio from the Gym Challenge. And that one, I have an interesting story about that. I don't know if I've told on here yet. On Mercari, I saw the same card, a Brock's Dugtrio PSA 10, and a like a Master Ball. Again, these are both first edition, but the Master Ball is a PSA 9 from the Gym Challenge set. It was for like $29 or $30, and I was like, I'll give it like 25, and they're going back and forth, and I was like, all right, and he says 28, like 27. Like, I guess I had extra time that day. I should have probably just bought it at the time, but he's like, I don't really like nickel and diming, I'll pass for now. And I was like, okay, no problem. And then I get a notification from Mercari, like 2 weeks later, prices dropped to 25. No one bids, so boom, bought that. That was good. Generally, in hindsight, most of the things that I had either lost out on or that I had gotten and I got lucky with, when I'd say, like, I try to not nickel and dime, but say, like, oh, this is 2,200, can you do it for 18? And sometimes it works. Sometimes they'll do it right. Like that full rocket set, near mint, first edition. Put it on for 1,200. I said, I gave an offer for 800. Boom, got it. Perfect. But sometimes they say, no, that card or that lot is gone. And then I miss out. The next time that card or lot appears, it is grown exponentially. And so a lot of times, even if you're paying above market value for something, eventually, usually, not a lot, depending on the card, depending on the set, whatever it is, it's going to grow. So that's my advice on that. But anyway, this first edition PSA 10 Brock's Dugtrio, it's a rare card that sold for $12, which I was a little confused at, but then I looked at, okay, the shipping was also $12. So between the cost and the shipping and the taxes and whatever, you're paying close to $30 for the card. Which I believe it probably is a $30 card, because again, it's rare. I'm not sure how many PSA 10 copies are in there, but it's also cool artwork too. We also, moving on, all right, so this one, Neo Genesis, excuse me, it was a lot. It was first edition PSA 9. Again, Neo Genesis, they have the starters of all forms for Alligator, Meganium, Typhlosion, and what happens is they have two forms of it. So there's two for Alligators, there's two Typhlosions, there's two Meganiums, and some of you might know the story behind the Typhlosion, which is the last one sold for $10,000. The first edition PSA 10 card, number 17. Number 18 you get for a couple hundred. But the PSA 10 version of this number 17, that Typhlosion, there's only 9 of them in the pop report. The only other one that's out there right now, a PSA 10 copy, is on sale, is $25,000, and I don't even think it's or best offer. It's just $25,000 from the Netherlands, and that's the only one that's out there. There's only 9 of them left. On E4, people were talking about this last year, and I was saying, like, oh, maybe this will be worth a couple grand. Someone's like, I'll pay 5 for it right now, and whoa, and someone paid 10. So anyway, back to this item. it was a lot of all 6 of the starters. So the 2 Feraligatrs, 2 Typhlosions, 2 Meganiums, and it was 1,300 or best offer because that and they weren't first edition PSA 10s. They were all first edition PSA 9s. And the most recent, or not even the most recent listed for that Typhlosion, the PSA 9 version of, again, the 10 that sells for 10,000, that PSA 9 version, the other 2 copies that are out there are $799 or $1,500, those or best offers. And that $799 guy, I said, can do it for $650. Said no. Now, also to this, Alex, if you're watching, hey Alex, I have on the line this guy. He first edition PSA 9 Typhlosion. We negotiated $700. As soon as my wire comes in and I can pay him, I will have that first edition PSA 9 $700, because again, those are pretty rare. And even at $700, that PSA 10 that sold for $10,000, if this new price point of $700 sticks, right now that PSA 10 is selling for 14 times what the 9 is selling for. So it should be higher. It should be upwards of $900, probably $1,000. I think it should be over 1,000 probably, because I don't know how many PSA 9 copies there are out there. I don't know if I wrote it down, but because there's so few of the 10s, the 9s are obviously going to carry a premium. So anyway, this whole lot was a 1,300 or best offer. I offered $1,050, sold right away. Like, he's like, thank you for your purchase. He messaged me right away. Hikeman222, cool dude, great guy. Go to eBay / Hikeman222, cool dude. Yeah, definitely dude, man. So we're I got that, and because that minimum, that Typhlosion number 17 is selling for a PSA 9, or that PSA 9 selling for a minimum of $700, I'm looking and I'm like, okay, if all of these get even $100 more, which the Feraligatrs minimum go for over $100, that's it probably worth the $1,300, at least 11 or 12. But as the years go on, that is going to probably be one of my smartest buys, because that 9 is going to grow. That 9 this time next year should be that $1,300. It should be the price of the whole lot. Again, I'm not a professional, whatever. This is what I know. This is what I think is going to happen. That's what I think should happen. And if it's not, if that price stays at $700, again, I'll buy them all. So the first edition PSA... Okay, I got that in Netherlands. The first edition PSA 10 Meganium, that number 10 in that Neo Genesis lot, the PSA 10 version, there's only one on sale right now, $10,000 or best offer, because there's 15 PSA 10 copies out there in the world. Now, it's a little bit more, it's 6... So then there's only 60% of the Typhlosions as there are of the PSA 10s, because 9, 15 fractions, whatever percentage. The Feraligatrs, the 4 and the 5s, they both sell for over 100. But the PSA 10 copy of number 5, the number 5 version of Feraligatr has 18 PSA 10 copies. That's really, really rare. And the number 5s, those PSA 9s, have sold for 200 in the past. So again, it's a great deal for me. We also had a first edition PSA 7 Blaine's Charizard. That one came in, it sold for $250. Second bid was $250. Third bid was $237. Now here is some trends for that first edition PSA 7 Charizard, Blaine's Charizard, from the Gym Challenge set. On 29 February, that sold for $356. And then in 11 March, that sold for $300. And on 24 March, that sold for $250. So that price is going down, which I think it should, because the PSA 8s are probably that $300 mark. The 7s were selling for higher than the 8s, and I didn't know why, because they were scheduled. I didn't know if the 7s were going to come down, or if it's the 8s that were going to go up. But we now know there's the 7s that's coming down. I don't think there was much room for the 8s to go up if the 9s are selling for, I'm going to say around between $500 and $600. Wasn't much room for the 8s to go up. I should have seen it. 7s are going down. So, and then in January, 31 January, someone bought a PSA 7 for $220. It was a $220. Just buy it now. So, if I had this sold for $250, I think that's around the level, and it might go lower, because you have 274 PSA 10 copies of that particular card. So that's what I'm seeing right now. There is two. All right, so as we're going to talk about Charizard, Blaine's Charizard First Edition PSA 10 from that Gym Challenge set. There are two right now in PWCC. I've been following it. One of them's already at 1,200. Like what? And the first two bids, like it does 1,200, and then like 1,100, and then there's me at like 800. So I'm the third bidder on that. And then the other copy, which again I thought is the slightly lesser copy because I see a little bit of whitening. That's at 880. 880, 850, and I think I'm the third bidder on that one as well at like 800. The top two bidders on the what I think is the not as strong of a 10 copy, they are different than the top two bidders that are on the pristine 10, like the stronger 10 copy. So we have right now 4 people that are bidding over 800 and above on those PSA 10 copies. Okay, all right, 5 if you include me. And again, those are last one sold for over $1,300. That first one, the one that I think is a stronger 10, that might go for $1,500. It's already at $1,200 with like 5 days left. So we'll see what happens. I can't afford that right now. I should, but I won't. That is all I have. I'm gonna do a video later for a what I think. I think it's Pokemon Trader 123. They told me what I think is a good investment, and that'll be a second video for tonight. All right, bye guys.